time is it? Oh, because the Ranger game. The island was into the Ranger game. Is that the shot?
The second half of the doubleheader?
That was already. That was that.
The island's into it only when they get the free tickets.
That was already Elio. That was the second half of the doubleheader.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Yeah.
But
That was a pretty good
crowd. I assume that was the first one.
That was a pretty good one, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Where do we leave off? On the bottom, right? On the bottom, Lama Beis and Beis. Maybe if we finish fast, I can make the Levi. Maybe. I don't know. Okay. The Mayor Hershkowitz. He was like from the Gedolei Rosh Hashivas.
Oh, in BMG?
What?
Where?
He was in Stanford. He was in Stanford Yeshiva.
I was thinking of
That's
where Sender went.
Okay. Yeah.
Mayor, that was New Jersey. Okay.
Naftali figured out who he was trying to think of. Okay. Kriya Shema. Yeah, up to Kriya Shema.
It was the mayor thing.
We mamish, that's exactly what we're learning in Kitzur, Kriya Shema. Yeah, so Minalon. So Kriya Shema we said you could say in any language. Minalon. How do you know you could say Kriya Shema in any language? Dichsiv Shema Yisrael. Listen Yisrael. B'chol lashon shata shemeya. In every lashon, and every lashon that you could hear it in, so you could say Kriya Shema. All right? That's what we're up to, right? Yeah.
I ask you something, so are you allowed to switch off?
You mean on the fly in middle?
I'm just saying, so the Birchas Kriya Shema, you're saying in Hebrew, in Lashon HaKodesh, and then you're saying the Shema in a different language?
L'chara, that would work.
I'm saying you could switch off.
I would think so, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Lamed Beis and Beis.
Well, I think you would know.
Yeah, halavai. But anyway, so I think you can. I mean, I never heard of anybody. It comes up with the Balei Tshuva. It's very hard for them to keep up with the minyan, with reading in Hebrew. So tell them to read it in English. That's all. Fine. So Tanra, because Shema and Shemon Esrei, we'll get to Tefillah soon, but that's what it works. It works in another language. Kriya Shema kichsava. Kriya Shema, this opinion obviously disagrees and says Kriya Shema has to be read the way it's written, meaning in Lashon Kodesh. Divrei Rebbe. And that's our Mishnah. B'chol Lashon, they say it could be in any language. My time with the Rebbe. What's Rebbe's reason? Amar Krov v'hayu. Right? It says v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela. Right? V'hayu is Baba Yasan Yehu is the way they are, meaning in Lashon Kodesh. V'Rabbanan Amar Kra Shema. It says Shema b'chol Lashon shata shemeya. Right? So that's a machlokes. And our Mishnah we paskin, and this is the way we paskin, that you could say Kriya Shema in any language. But the Shulchan Aruch does give a caveat. It says you could read Kriya Shema in any language, but you have to be medactic in it to read it correct. Correct, meaning you can't do run-on sentences and stuff like that. Meaning the same hakpada that you have with Kriya Shema, you have the fruma people making sure that they know tzitzis, and that time. I don't know how you say that in English, but strings. No, I don't know. I'm just okay. I'm sorry. No, too much Lutzonis. I don't know how it means.
I thought you were going to say tizkiru.
Right, or tizkiru. How you say that in English, right? If there's a, I don't know.
Naftali Leiner didn't have any comments about strings.
No,
Don't get it.
He's got no comments.
Naftali Zaidi Al Vashalom. No, Zaidi Shane.
Yeah.
Never mind. Go back to sleep.
What about strings?
Everything was with boxes with things with strings. You don't remember? His whole house was with boxes.
He made me a digger clause.
Yeah. Forget it.
Okay. Anyway, so the Z. So I don't know if a Z in English, you got to make sure you pronounce the Z. I don't know, but that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. You got to make sure you read Shema correctly. Fine.
Well, that's because if you don't say tizkru right, you say tizkru. It's like you're doing it for schar. It's a different word.
Correct. That's true. So I'm saying
in
English.
And in English.
I don't know. You have to come up with the equivalent, but sometimes in English you could read something and it sounds different than what it really is.
There are words like that. I thought.
Well, strings isn't a bad one. People say strings. SHT is not a word.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Fine. The Rabbanon nami haksiv v'hayu. Right? The Rabbanon who darshan from Shema, what do they with word hayu? Hahu shelo yikrenu lemafreya. That means that you can't read Kriya Shema backwards. Right? You got to read it in the proper order. Now that's the way some say it. And some say it means normally lemafreya doesn't mean that you're reading, let's say, I don't know, can I read Shema backwards? After es Hashem Elokecha Hashem es be'ahavta. Yeah, right. So
is out of order. The parsha is out of order.
Right. So the pashup shot. Right. So pashup shot of lemafrei would be you read one pasuk in the regular way, but before the pasuk, meaning you read it out of order. Okay. But Rebbe Shalai Kran Lemafrei, how does Rebbe know you're not allowed to read it out of order? Nafkalei Devarim had Devarim, because it says Devarim, but you had Devarim. So the extra hey tells you that it has to be read properly. For Rabbanon, Devarim had Devarim Blai Mashmalu, they don't think that the word Devarim had Devarim can be darshaned. Right? So therefore they don't go with that. Fine. But Rebbe Nami Haksiv Shema. What about Rebbe? It says Shema. In which the Chachamim used Shema to tell you can do it in any language. He's telling you that you have to say it out loud so that your ears hear what you're reading. Rabbanan Sami lo commandam, Rabbanan hold like the mandam. It says Akayres Shema. If you read Shema and it didn't reach your ears, then you are yotza.
That's a lashon b'diavad. No. That's a lashon b'diavad.
Yes, that is a lashon. Yeah.
Tiago, if you have surgery and you can't speak.
Yeah, so that's a b'diavad.
You shouldn't have the surgery.
That's a b'diavad. Yeah.
I'm saying we paskin that b'diavad would be, I say.
What?
Who do we pass on, like in the scenario in general?
We say b'diavad certainly works. Right? Which I hope so, because many people read Shema and it doesn't get to their ears.
So Jacob, you have time for two stories?
If the Olam, go ahead.
About the
yeah,
tomorrow.
Of course about this. Yeah,
when Reb Shlomo the first year had polyps, he couldn't talk. So he used to walk around with a notepad, but by davening, he stood right next to the shots. He stood right next to the bima. So he was able to make sure he heard the shots. And my wife, Zaidi, who I've told you many stories about, when the Zaidi was 95, somebody told him about acupuncture. And he had one of my cousins in Muncie, drove him a few times to the city to get acupuncture. So maybe he'd be able to hear himself say Krishma, because he couldn't use the ears, his ears was shot. He took acupuncture, 95 years old. As Reb Shlomo would say, that man is younger than all of us.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's. Did it work?
Not really, no.
No. That's pretty good. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm worried that I don't say Shema. I'm not so sure I hear it. Right? You got. I'm saying you have to really supposed to say at least lechatchila, but you're going to be.
So the guys in shul knock crazy.
That's something you're going to say out loud. And okay. Anyways, Lema Kasava Rebbe.
That's what Stalin's all about.
What?
That's what Stalin is all about. They're all yelling, so they'll be louder than the guy next to them.
Oh,
Stalin.
Stalin. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. So, Kala Torah Kula. So, Lema Kasava Rebbe. Now we're on to Lamagim Alav. Kala Torah Kula. The Chalesha Nemra must be that the whole Torah you could read, meaning Kriyas HaTorah, you'd be able to read in any language. Why? Because if you say that the whole Torah dafka has to be in Lashon Kodesh, then what do you need Vahayu for in Shema? Meaning, Rebbe, who holds that you do have to read Shema in Lashon Kodesh, must be that the rest of the Torah doesn't have to be in Lashon Kodesh. Because if not, Shema is part of Lashon Kodesh.
They write it on stones. Why would they write it on stones in different
other
languages?
I think that was just to show the Goyim that they were offered the Torah and they turned it down. Right? I don't think it has. This has to do with the mitzvah every day. Right? So anyway, so that's the kasha. Meaning, if the whole Torah must be in any language, that's why you have to have a specific pasuk to tell you that Shema is in Lashon Kodesh. So the Gemara answers, no, it's mashum d'chsiv Shema. No, because since it says Shema, so if it says Shema, that might tell you that you can do it in any language that you could hear. So therefore, Vahayu comes to tell you that don't think that. So meaning the whole Torah has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Shema, because it says Shema, you might think has a leniency that it can be read in any language. So Vahayu comes to tell you don't learn Shema like that. Right? Now the Gemara asks the same kasha, but on the Rabbanon. With the opposite kasha. Maybe, according to Rabbanon, again, Rabbanon are the ones that say that Kriya Shema can be read in any language. So must be that the rest of the Torah has to be in Lashon Kodesh, right? These are because if you think the whole Torah could be said in, meaning the regular Kriyas of Torah could be said in any language, Shema because of Rahman al-Amalis, and then what do you need a pasuk by Shema? Right? Elamai must be the whole Torah has to be read in Lashon Kodesh, and Shema doesn't. So my answer is the same thing. It's mashum d'chsiv Vahayu. No, really, the whole Torah is that it can be read in any language, right? But you would think, since it says Vahayu, that Shema has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Comes along the word Shema to tell you, no, don't think from Vahayu that Shema has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Shema tells you that Shema could be said in, the word Shema can tell you that it could be said in any language. Fine. Tefillah. How about davening? So, meaning Tefillah could also be in any language. So the Gemara answers, Rachmehi and Kol Heichid Deboi Matzli. It's Rachmehi. Rachme, you nailed it twice already. You move us Yucha Liskon in the Kitzur, and then this one, it's Alavai, they daven a whole day, right? So Rachmehi and Kol Heichid Deboi Matzli. Whenever a person wants, he could daven. Right? It doesn't really mean whenever. It means Kol Heich. I mean, that's the way we touch it. It means in any way you daven. When you're davening to Rabban Shem, you're asking the Rabban Shem for this. You're asking for Rachmanas. So what's the difference? What language? Meaning Shema, maybe you have an issue because you have to read it the way the Torah wanted you to read it. But davening, the mitzvah is to daven to Rabban Shem. Okay, so daven in any language you want. So then the Gemara says, "Utfilu b'chol lashon." Can you daven in any language? A person should not ask for anything in Aramaic. If you ask for your needs in Lashon Arami, the Malach Yesharas don't listen to him. Because Malach Yesharas don't know Aramaic. So therefore, Tefillah cannot be in every language, which is an interesting question because the Gemara is only going by our Aramaic, right? Other languages is no problem. Right? Meaning the Mishnah says you can daven in any language, which includes Aramaic. So the Gemara is asking, what do you mean you can't daven and you're not allowed to daven in Aramaic because the Malachim don't understand Aramaic?
So what do Malachim have to do with davening?
Oh, so that's right. So that's a big question. Right? That's a big question from here. From here, you see that the Malachim are involved with taking the tefillas from us up to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what you have to say. Which would then lend support to those non-shayoshev people that by slichus don't say in Tachnun after slichus, Malache Rachamim. Do they say
Machnise Rachamim?
Machnise Rachamim, right? So the Gra, I think it was the Gra. No, it was more than Gra. I forgot who says you don't say that because that's you're davening to you're davening to, or you're asking the malachim to take your tefillas up, right? And the same thing in Nila, we skip midas harachamim, right? Because of the same thing. This Gemara l'chayra is a kasha on that. However you understand it, this Gemara is a kasha on that. Because clearly this Gemara is saying that the malachim do carry up the tefillas, and they just don't understand Aramaic, right?
Yeah, but you're not allowed to daven to them. You daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom. They take
you daven up. Good, so same thing here. Whatever's going on here,
no,
Machnise Rachamim.
Machnise Rachamim is talking to the malach.
No, you're saying bring in our tefillas.
Machnise Rachamim are the malachim that take the tefillas in. They're the names of those malachim.
Right. So what's going on here?
Here we're davening to the Eibishter, and the malachim are the ones that transfer the tefillas from our mouths to the Eibishter, to the Kizeh Kavod.
So I think
whatever that means.
That's right. So that's what they're going to say.
I send a letter to somebody. I write this nice long letter to my mother, and I forgot to put the stamp. So the stamp, it ain't going to get there without the stamp. But
but I don't need the But if you're just delivering it, I don't care if you don't understand Aramaic, as long as Hashem understands Aramaic.
Right. That's awesome.
Right? That's the kasha. If they were just delivering it, okay. But they're not. They were saying they don't understand Aramaic, unless they can't read the address, he's saying.
Why don't they understand Aramaic?
That's a different story. So that it seems that because of the similarity to Lashon Kodesh, therefore they look at it like it's sort of like people that don't want to speak Ivrit Bisman Hazeh, they only would want to speak Lashon Kodesh, not Ivrit, because Ivrit is like a messed up version of Lashon Kodesh. So Aramaic is like a messed up version of which is also interesting because Yerushalmi is in Aramaic, and so is Targum Onkelos, right?
Why do we say Baruch Shemay in Aramaic?
Baruch Shemay is Aramaic also.
So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a minute.
You once told me that some people hold not to say Baruch Shemay.
The Gra didn't say Baruch Shemay.
Yeah.
I heard a Vart.
I remember.
I heard a Vart on the Seder night that we say Halach Manya is a proof that the Ribbon Shalom Bechvod and Batzmo is at everyone's table, because you don't need Malachim to talk to him. That you say it in Aramaic right away.
Oh, interesting. I never
comes and visits.
I never heard that Vart. That's very good. Thank you.
Which Yaakov, so with davening with a minyan, isn't that the Shechina is there if you have 10 people? So if the Malachim are taking the tefillas up, so what's going on?
Oh, so very good. So okay, so let's see weiter. So anyway,
let's see. 3 words.
Yeah, very good. So the oilam is being mechaber, Baruch Hashem. So let's see. So that's the Gemara's kasha. That Aramaic, you see that you can't daven Aramaic. So like kasha, habi yachid, habi tzibur. One's by a yachid and one's by a tzibur. By a yachid, you need the malachim. This is for those that don't like to daven with the minyan. Tune out now, right? If you daven by yourself, you need the malachim's help. The lashon of Rashi in the second thin line is tzarich sheyasayu malachei hasharis. You need the help of the malachei hasharis. If you're davening alone, you need the help of the malachei hasharis. So therefore, when you're davening b'yachid, it's not going to help you to daven in Aramaic because they don't understand Aramaic, right? Yitzi and Zev, that's what you're saying. So, but a tzibur loy tzrichilu. Tzibur doesn't need them. Tzibur, the tefillas go up without, which is the main reason that the poskim say you should daven b'tzibur, right? Yeah, so that's the same. So, but tzibur, you don't need it. Now, there's a lot of halacha l'maisa that comes out from this. First of all, Baruch Shemay is only said with a minyan, but that's because there's only a Sefer Torah. Yukum Purkan on Shabbos.
The second one they say only with a minyan.
Right, the Yukum Purkan, according to the Mishnah Brura, you cannot say any of the Yukum Purkans when you daven b'yachid. The Siddur says only the second one. The Siddur says the first one you could, based on the terminology of the first Yukum Purkan. Yukum Purkan, if anybody's not familiar, for those that go to Kiddush clubs, that's what we say after the Haftarah. That's what we say after the Haftarah before Ashrei, before Avarachamim, before Ashrei. Right? So that's in Aramaic. So that's why if you're davening b'yachidus, you cannot say it, right? Because there's no point.
This whole thing is only if it's Aramaic.
Correct.
So if a person So a person could daven b'yechidus be saying davening that's in Hebrew?
Yes, 100%. You want to say you can pork in English? You want to say?
No, I'm saying if a person, this whole thing of davening b'yechidus is talking about if it's in Aramaic, correct?
Correct. It's only a problem in Aramaic because the malachim.
So if a person's davening stam, davening's in Hebrew. So he's allowed to daven b'yechidus?
You're not allowed to, meaning he's still.
No, but then the malachim, he still needs
right.
the malachim.
The malachim will help him out. The malachim will help him out.
That's what constitutes davening with a minyan. Like I was on my way home, they were doing the plug mincha, but they're already up to Myra. If I daven Shemona Esrei with them, does that count as me davening mincha with a minyan?
So you're asking a different thing also. Let's say you were at the Kiddush Club and you come in and they're already up to Ashrei. Can you say Yukum Porkun? Or is that called with the minyan or not? So they say that as long as the minyan's in shul, they say that that's a minyan. What?
The way you said it before is they could be completely on a different inyan, and it's considered tula b'sibur.
Yes, so that answers that. I mean,
except for the Chazon Ish.
If it's a good Kiddush club, you don't know the difference.
Okay, that's a good point, Reb Daib. That is a good point. But then you really can't daven anyway. So you got much bigger.
So if you have the malche, Sheres helping, then what?
That helps your tefillas go up to. You need the malachim for your tefillas to go up. You need the malachim to be yechidus. You need the malachim.
Good.
And if you do Aramaic, then the malachim can't help.
What? So good. So the guy says, okay.
So your tefillah is going to have a much harder time being answered. That's all.
Why? Because Malchus Sheretz are delivering it.
They're not delivering it.
What
they can't deliver Aramaic
because they can't deliver Aramaic.
It's not Aramaic. The regular davening is in Hebrew, no?
Yes, but you need the malachim to help you. If you're davening with a minyan, you don't need the malachim.
I understand, and let's say a guy daven b'yechidus, and he goes and it's in Hebrew, right? Like we daven, and the Malach Sheretz are helping him. So good. What?
So now that helps his tefillas. But if the Malach Sheretz are ticked off at him, then his tefillas are not going up. That's all.
Zev, what do you want? You want a hetzer to daven b'yechidus?
No,
like
I'm just
help with anything else from Zev. You could take laxatives, or you can go to the bathroom on your own. Think of it that way.
I'll be honest, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
From now on, I'll know I'll think of laxatives as little malachim taking my stuff away.
Exactly. Next time I daven b'yechidus, I'm going to be thinking of laxatives.
Yeah. David, no pun intended. Thank you for clearing that up, huh?
Just don't take Aramaic laxatives.
Yes.
Well, that's what happens. You take laxatives and you can't go down with it.
That's true. So then you're einus. So then for sure you have the help. The chayra. Anyways, no, Zev, that's what it's saying. You're still going to need help. You're going to need help.
This is very disheartening to me personally.
Oh, no. Why?
We need it with that. We need intermediaries to talk to Rebbeinu Shalom. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Well, to daven b'yechidus.
Only b'yechidus.
Well, how many of the tzaddikim daven b'yechidus, Gershon? It's like, well, only tzaddikim can daven b'yechidus. You can't? What's the difference?
The tzaddikim are on first name terms with the malachim.
Oh, good.
They're called tzaddikim for a reason.
Big deal. Do you know Gavriel's last name? Everybody knows Gavriel's only one name.
I'm not shopping. We needed the Kahanim to serve the Rebbeinu Shalom also. So, like, isn't that even worse?
Good. Thank you very much. I know that also. It's an issue.
No. Oh, we have issues with Kahanim now. Okay.
I've had issues with Kahanim since I realized that I opened Bechor. They stole it from me. Yeah.
You lost it. They didn't steal it. You lost it. That's on you guys.
And as I can say, like you would, and some of my best friends are Kahanim. Yeah, still
don't. Well, we don't know if they're Kahanim. Debatable if they're Kahanim. I don't
know. Yeah, where's Landau for that? But anyways,
I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand what's the difference if a Malchus Sheretz has to bring it up. So what? I'm asking.
It needs assistance. It needs assistance. It's not when you daven with the minyan officially. The phrase goes that when you daven with the minyan, your tefillas are accepted. Now, obviously, we don't know what that means. Like we end every shir where we don't know what that means, right? But I'm saying we don't know what that means. But your tefillas, when you daven with the minyan, are automatically accepted. That's what it says.
When you daven with the minyan, it's FedEx, not going far. When you're davening with yourself, it goes USPS. It's slower. That's it. It needs more help.
Yeah,
that's all the difference.
That's what it is. Now, what that means, what that means, I don't know. But that's what it's saying.
Yaakov, what about for those of us who daven Nusach Svard? What about Kagavna?
Oh, I don't know. If you daven B'Yechidus Meir, you say Kagavna? I have no idea.
I'm looking in the Siddur. It seems to say it.
What?
It says it. I look in the Siddur. It says it.
It says B'Yechidus. You should say it.
Yeah, it's because it says there's a paragraph afterwards, the Laimar Baruch Hu, that if you daven in B'Yechidus, to say that after B'Nehir Danpen.
I hear. I don't know. It could be maybe it has the same status as the first Yukum Purkan. The first Yukum Purkan, there are a lot of Paiskim say you could say Yukum Purkan even be Yechidus but again, I don't know. The terminology is a little different about the first Yukum Purkan than the second Yukum Purkan. So I don't know. I guess Kigavna goes under that category too.
Okay.
I don't know. But again, the same thing with the Slichas. Also, you don't say it. If there's anything in Aramaic, you don't say it. Right? There's not much. I don't think there's much in Aramaic there. Right? Okay, whatever. That's the hot button topic for tonight's stuff. Fine. And the Malach Yesharis don't recognize Lashon Arami. He heard a baskol coming out from the Kodesh Kedoshim saying, "Nitzchu Talia da'azlu la'agacha karava la'antoichia." That's clearly Aramaic, right? It said the people, the young guys that went out to war, they killed Antiochus. I don't know, killed, whatever. They beat him, right? So how did they know? Meaning that it wasn't a TV that was playing loud saying the news in the Kodesh Kedoshim, right? It was a baskol that came out. Now baskol l'chayr, the Gemara is thinking right now, a baskol is a malach. So clearly the malach was talking to them in Aramaic. B'shuv ma'isa b'shimon atzadik sheshama baskol beis Kodesh Kedoshim shehu aimer, that he heard it. Betelas avidita da'amar sana la'isa al heichala. It was Batal, the Avidita, that was coming to hate on the Heichel, meaning the army that was coming to attack was that I mean they were on their way to the Beis HaMikdash, they were knocked down. Venerag Gas, how do you pronounce this? Gasgalgus, who Batal Gleirosav, and Gasgalgus, he was Rashi says he was the Melech Yavan. He was killed, and all his gezeiros were vatal. And they wrote down the time when that baskol was b'lashon Arami haya aimer, and it was in lashon Arami, right? So I mean, okay, there's a few things here before we show. So the kasha obviously is that the malachim speak Aramaic. Now, what do you mean? They wrote down the time, and they were mechaven, and it was mechaven at the same time that it happened. Meaning, they were checking up on this baskol. Is that what's going on here? A voice came out of Kodesh Kedoshim that said, the war that's going on, whatever, of 10 miles away, we won, right? And then they wrote down the time. Let's say it happened at 10:30 in the morning. The baskol came out, and then when the soldiers came back, they said to them, by the way, what time did you win the war? And they said 10:30. Therefore we how do you call it when you prove the news? It's substantiated.
Checker.
What? Validated, whatever it is, right? So is that what you do to a baskol that comes out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? You're verifying it? No.
This is amazing. There's a Gershon, who went to speak to Shapsei Tzvi? The Taz, the Bach sent the Taz. Who?
Oh, I don't know. So.
I think the Bach sent the Taz, and Yaakov, it's the same Maisa he told them about there was the poets from Krakow, I think. Let's say Krakow. I'm not sure. He was giving them very hard time. So Shabtai Tzvi bent down and pulled the grass out of the ground, and he said, "I'm going to be oike him from his shoirish." And when the Taz went back to Krakow, he found out that the poets died. And he said, "When did he die?" And he told him 10:26 a.m. on Wednesday. It was that moment that Shabtai Tzvi did his Maisa. So the Bach said the big deal. It's not a big deal because if he had to do a Maisa, that means that he's not Mashiach. Mashiach would have just said it. He wouldn't have had to do a physical Maisa. That's the Maisa that's brought down. So
I hear.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't. Okay. So, but the whole thing I don't understand. You're checking up on a baskol. Okay. I don't know. Either way, the point is that they were speaking Aramaic. So when it says Iba, you're saying a baskol shani de lashmui avida. A baskol is different because what's it doing? It's not taking our tefillas up. It's taking our tefillas. It's letting us know something from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Right? Like Rashi says, you have to know. Had to know 70 languages. Whoever was Mamuna, whatever that means, the Malach that's Mamuna on letting Klal Yisrael know what's going on in Shemayim or whatever's going on, has to know all the languages because he's like somebody in the Sanhedrin has to know the language in order to communicate with people.
What's the Gemara? You can't bring a riot from something in Shemayim?
Torah Leva Shemayim. You're right, Zev. I hear you, Kasha. But I think the teretz for that is that we're not bringing a raya from Shemayim. We're just bringing a raya that a malach could speak Aramaic. Right?
The malach not Shemayim. He's down there.
Okay. add it to the we don't know on this stuff. Yeah. Iba is a Gavriel Hava. It was really Gavriel. Damar Mar. Bo Gavriel Belimdu Shivim Lashon. Gavriel came, and who taught Yosef at Tzaddik. Right, Reb Doiv, this is in your Midrashim over there. The Gavriel came and taught Yosef at Tzaddik the 70 languages. So it was Gavriel. So therefore what? So Gavriel is a malach that knows Aramaic, but that's it. None of the other malachim. Which also the Mashah is an interesting Mashah. So maybe Gavriel's the one bringing your tefillas.
Right.
Maybe it's Gavriel. Maybe you lucked out. Right. So the Mashah says you can't know. The Lashon of the Mashah is the Efshashu Einem Mamunah L'Kavala Tfilas Lavin L'Fanei. We don't know if Gavriel is in charge of that. Since we don't know if Gavriel is in charge of that, then don't bet on it. Then don't bet on it. Right? There's another sugya I forgot to say before that davening by kvarim. What's the deal with davening by kvarim? So the Mishnah Berurah says kvarim. He was a Litvak, right? But Kfarim, there's a big Indian to daven by Kfarim. It's a Makam Kedusha, whatever it means. So then, but the Mishnah points out to say, make sure when you go to a kaver, you're not davening to the nifter, you're not davening to the neshama, you're asking the neshama to bring up the tefillas. So that's there's a concept like that works in the practical for us. That's the aside of going to Kfarim, to daven for them, that they should intercede on our behalf in Shemayim.
Don't we see that not Lagabe Malachim, but Lagabe, like I'm saying, we daven by Durachal Emenu, right? There's an Indian. There's Gemaras that bring down, the different Abbas would try to speak to Rebbeinu Shalom on behalf of Klal Yisrael. Don't we see this concept in general? I'm saying Kalev went to daven by the Kivrei Avos, right?
Yes, that's coming up tomorrow or the next day. Very good, Akiva. Yeah, that's he went to Chevron.
Correct, but I'm saying, don't we see this idea? I mean, you see throughout. There's many stories brought down in Shas where the Avos or different figures would go to the Rebbeinu Shalom to intercede on Klal Yisrael's behalf. I don't know if that means that they just went on their own without Klal Yisrael davening to them. But isn't that the whole point of Rachel Emenu being buried on the
way? Yes. So you see, there's such a concept. Right? He was right. You see that there's such a concept of somebody interceding on our behalf. But the main thing is not to daven to the malachim and not to daven to the neshamas. You're asking them, since they're closer to the Kisei HaKavod, to take your tefillas. But then you have a whole sugya, because then, the question is, do Mason really know what's going on in this world? Do they not know? Okay, that's a whole different sugya.
We had that
sugya. Okay, yeah, we had it, yeah.
How many people in Paris there last week were davening to Hashem?
I'm not so sure if they were davening to Hashem or they were davening to "In God We Trust," but whichever. Yeah.
Right. or Uman or any of these places. I don't know.
Yeah, no Hanami. That's it for whatever. The Olam takes inspiration from that, so that's okay. And how many times I get a shaila from pregnant women going to the oil by the Lubavitcher Rebbe? I almost have to make an auto text for that. That's how often they want to know if that. And they tell them it doesn't count by a tzaddik's cave or the whole pregnant women not going to a cave, whatever. The people go, then why not? Why not?
Why? It doesn't? It doesn't or it does?
Does what? No, pregnant women could go to the Svarim say pregnant women could go to Kivrei Tzadikim. Regular Kfarim, that's but that's debatable.
What about the person going to parents?
No, yeah, we go to parents. Yeah, you go and you go.
No, a pregnant lady could go to her parents.
It depends on minig. Some do, some don't. Yeah, okay. By Chassidim for sure not. Chassidim for sure not. But they never go. Chassidish ladies never go. Right. Yeah, so okay. Birchas Hamazon.
And Ashes Kain also doesn't.
Ashes Kain, you like to be machmir on this, Aaron. I don't know, man. Many places come out very makel that Ashes Kain could go to cemeteries.
We had this fight a few times.
Yes, we had this fight. Yeah, I feel like I'm fighting with your father.
That's why I do it.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
We had this Shiloh with Ashes Kain who's Mubaris.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
I missed the phone call.
The Shach says it's a sveka and it's mutter. Right? He just said over. Elio Ikovic sent me. This is great. He sent me a clip of Rabbi Breidowitz from Or Sameach talking about the Chofetz Chaim's daughter, and whenever she needed to escape from her father, and she didn't want him to find her, she would run into the Beis HaKvaros, and he couldn't go in and get her.
That's automatic legend status. I'm sorry, that's amazing.
Yes, yeah. So I have to find out if that's legitimate or not, but that's what he said. Chofetz Chaim's daughter. He's a kohen. She's allowed to go into it. She went to and whenever she wanted to escape. So, but he said he wasn't a tough father. Yeah. Based on knowing some of the Einaklach, I could hear it. That I could tell you. Anyways, so Birchas Hamazon, right? You eat and satisfied, you thank Hashem. Right? Any lashon that you bench, so therefore Birchas Hamazon could be in any language. Shvuas ha'edus, that's if you make a shvuah. If somebody says, come testify on my behalf, and the guy says, I don't know the testimony, so you could force him to swear. And it means any lashon that she could hear. Fine. Shvuas abikadin. That's if somebody watched something to somebody, so you have to swear that you didn't mishandle and misuse it. So that we know from Exer Shama Shvuas ha'edus. Fine. Mikra bikurim v'chalitza. Right. Fine. So ad mikra bikurim. So until ad mikra bikurim, Kate. What am I saying? Yeah, it's a very interesting thing here. It threw me off a little bit, which is clearly still throwing me off. Mikra bikurim v'chalitza, ad mikra bikurim, ketzad, right? So meaning that's all a lashon, like until, and it's a quote, until mikra bikurim. Okay, so ketzad, right? How do you know that the bikurim has to be read in lashon kodesh? V'nisa v'marta v'nei Hashem elekecha. V'lalanu v'amir v'anu alavim v'amru v'kol ish Yisrael. I don't know. This was all in the Mishnah, so I'm not sure why the Gemara is repeating. I think it's just a quote, just a very long quote from the Mishnah. How do you know that the Leviim by the brachas and klolos of Har Grizim and Har Evel? How do you know? Asi call me Moshe, because there we learn out call from Moshe. Ksiv call ram. It says the a loud voice. Moshe spoke by Matan Torah, right? Moshe spoke, and Hashem would, whatever this means in the Taich, right? If Hashem answered him with a voice, right? Yeah. So Malahalam b'lashon hakodesh, Avkam b'lashon hakodesh. So that's how we know it's all lashon kodesh. Fine. Chalitza ketzad. So the Mishnah already said how we know that chalitza, because you learned it out from the brachas and the klolas v'agrizim harevel. Fine. And then we said a different, who was it? Rabbanon. Rabbi Yehuda had a different one because it says kacha. Rabbanon, right? Again, the Mishnah says we learn out chalitza that needs to be in Lashon Kodesh from Gzeir Shava Hargrizim Harevel. And Rabbi Yehuda said we don't need that. We can learn it from the word kacha. Right? That this is what you do to a man. But Rabbanon that doesn't want to marry his sister-in-law. Rabbanon hai kacha mayav. So what do Rabbanon do with kacha? To tell you that anything that needs a maisa by the chalitza is ma'akiv. Meaning you can't skip any of the steps of chalitza. That he's got to take off. She's got to take off his shoe, and then she has to throw it. Then she has to spit. All that stuff is ma'akiv. If you miss any of those steps, then she has to redo it. Rabbi Yehuda, mikai kacha. The reason how he knows this is because he darshans the word kacha as two words, kai and kacha. For Rabbanon, kai kacha loy mashmalu. The Rabbanon, they don't darshan the word kai and kacha. On Talmud Beis now. Okay, but Rabbi Yehuda, hai va'ansa va'amra my avid. What does Rabbi Yehuda do with the ansa va'amra? Right, that she said, because that's how he learned out that's how the Chachamim learned out from va'ansa va'amra that she has to do in Lashon Kodesh. So right, that it teaches us that the Leviim have to say it in Lashon, meaning he's turning it around. He's saying that's how we know that the Leviim have to do in Lashon Kodesh from Chalitza. But Leilef call me Moshe. Why don't we learn it al kol from Moshe the same way the Rabbanan did? So aniya gomer kol loy gomer. He'd rather make a gzeir shava. No, he learned the gzeir shava from aniya. He never learned the gzeir shava kol. This is the go-to thing when we're not sure what to do with it, because we know. Right, Rashi says the third line down. Rashi says, and it's a major klal throughout Shas that ein adam dan gzeir shava el im kain kibla kor kabbalah. Right, a person cannot make up his own gzeir shavas. You have to have a kabbalah from your rebbe, all the way back. So the Gemara is asking, well, why don't you learn a gzeir shava kol instead of ani? It says, look, it's very simple. He didn't have a Messiah for kol. That's it. It's almost like Epoch Ter. It's like you can't fight him anymore on that. You can't ask any kashas. His Messiah was that the gzeir shava was aniya. He didn't have kol. So that's it. He couldn't learn it that way. Anytime it says the words kai, kacha, aniya, and amira, so that means that means that it has to be on a lashon kodesh. Kai Savaruchu, that we know from Kai Savaruchu by duchening, that you have to bench, that the kayan of the bench Klal Yisrael. Kacha the chalitza. That's by chalitza. Aniya v'amira the Leviim, and Aniya v'amira is by the Leviim. That the Leviim by the brachas and klalas v'agrizim and har evel. Okay, so that's how we know. That's how we know all those dinim have to be said in lashon kodesh. Now the rest for the next few block we have Agadata Gemaras. It's not really Agadata. It's like learning Nach. It's like learning Nach with the Mefarshim, or at least some Mefarshim. So now we get into the whole story of Har Grizim and Har Evel, and then tomorrow, Bez Hashem, we get into the Meraglim, also Har Grizim Har Evel, and then the Meraglim, and so on and so forth. So let's see. Brachos of Klolos Kates. Then we have the story. So Tana Rabbanan. Halayhema be'ever hayarden. When they were going, Har Grizim and Har Evel were on Ever Hayarden, meaning the other side of the Jordan River. Me'ever hayarden ve'elach, meaning they weren't stam on the other side of the Ever Hayarden. They were way further. Meaning, it says these are all psukim in Yeshua that when Klal Yisrael is going to cross over into Eretz Yisrael, so they have to do the brachas and klalos of Har Grizim and Har Evel, right? So it says when they cross into Eretz Yisrael. So how far in are they getting? Where Har Grizim and Har Evel is. So Rabbi Yehuda holds it's far away. It wasn't right when they get into Eretz Yisrael. It's much further away. Acharei derech mevay hashemesh. Then the next pasuk says after they're going in the way the sun comes. What does that mean? It's the place where the sun rises, right? Which is which is more further east. Beretz HaKnani Hayoshi B'Harava, and it's going to be in the Eretz HaKnani that's in the Harava, means like the flatlands. Elu, what do you call it? Plains. Elu Har Grizim Har Evel Sheyoshim Behem Kusiyim. That's talking about Har Grizim and Har Evel, which was controlled. The Kusiyim lived on Har Grizim and Har Evel, right? And the Kusim, which we'll see soon, only believed in Lashon and Lashon and the Torah Shabiksav, not in Torah Shabapeh. So Mulha Gilgal, and it was opposite Gilgal. Samach Gilgal, it means near Gilgal, right? Meaning that it's close enough to the way Taisa says it. It's Gilgal is close enough that it could be seen from Har Grizim and Har Evel. On Eitzel Elone Meira, that's talking about Shechem. And further it says Vayavar Avram Ba'aretz Ad Mokim Shechem Ad Elone Meira. That's very interesting. How do you normally touch Lahalon? I always thought Lahalon means in further, no?
Right.
Meaning later on in the Torah. Gershon's saying no. So either he's a catcher and he's turning down the pitcher, or he's disagreeing with what I say.
Lahalon just means over there.
I always thought Lahalon was Vaita. Naftali agrees with me.
Naftali another word means earlier, this one's later.
That's Le'elim L'Kaman. Le'el is before, L'Kaman is in front of us.
Yeah, so I don't know.
In other words, later, the way you read it.
So here clearly
Lahalon just means over there.
I always thought Lahalon is later, but okay, here it's clearly.
Alain is them. Alon is there.
All right, maybe. Not maybe, clearly. That's what, clearly you're right.
That's how I figured it also. I don't always agree with Gershon, but...
that's a smart thing, but I'm saying, but then here it's a good thing that you do. Yeah, so let's see. I lost the place now. Okay, so so you see Shechem is Eilein Moira. Ma Eilein Moira Hamer Lahalon Shechem. What it said over there by Avram Avinu Eilein Moira means Shechem. Afkan Shechem. So Sotah here is Shechem. Tanya Omer Rabbi Yosi B'Davar Zeh Siyafti Sifri Kusim. He says with this limud I actually made the Svarim of the Kusim false. Amarti lem ziyaftem terasem. You mezayef your own Torah. You're gaining nothing out of it. Why? What does this mean? Shatem meaning the Kusim say Eloine Moira Shechem. That Eloine Moira Shechem. Afanu Moidim, meaning seems like they stuck the way the Mefarshim say this. They stuck the word Shechem into the Torah to say that Eloine Moira Shechem. And Rabbi Yossi is telling him you didn't need to do that. We also agree that Eloine Moira is referring to Shechem. But we learned it from Gzeira Shava. What do you learn it from? Right? You don't believe. Right? Rashi says you don't believe in Torah. Well, I mean, is it Gzeira Shava, Torah Shabapeh, Torah Shabiksav? Okay, so from here it's mashma that Rashi is calling it a Torah Shabapeh because it's not Beferish. Right? Okay, fine. That's the first shita. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that Har Grizim and Har Evel were far away from the Yarden, from the Jordan River. Rabbi Lazar Amar Haloi Hema Be'evra Yarden Samach LeYarden. When it says Haloi Hema, meaning Har Grizim and Har Evel are by the other side of the Yarden, that's talking about Samach LeYarden. The Ime Evra Yarden Ve'elach, because if it means to go very far away, Haloi Ksiv Haya Ba'avrachem Es HaYarden. It says when you pass over the Yarden, you're going to go into Har Grizim and Har Evel, and you're going to make the klalos and the brachas, or the brachas and the klalos. So that's why he's saying it has to have been close to Ever Yarden. So how does he dash in the next words in the pasuk after you come from where the sun comes? He's saying that the coming of the sun. We had this machlokes before. I don't remember where. That it can mean either coming or setting. He's clearly learning the sun is setting, so it's on the west side. Beretz Aknani. In Eretz Aknani, Eretz Chivihi. That's the Eretz of the Chivi, Hayoshe Ba'Rava, that are in the Rava, like Bein Harim and Gvais in Yoshim. But they are staying in the Harim and Gvais, Mula Gilgal, right? And it says opposite Gilgal, V'aloi Loi Roas Gilgal. Gilgal is nowhere near there. It's a very interesting machlokes because it comes out they seem to be arguing in maps where things are, which I guess is not such a chiddush, right? I'm saying you can't know exactly where everything is, right? Okay, Rebbe Elazar Yaakov and Reloiba Akasav El Haras Lahan Derech B'Shniya. Right? All the pasuk is coming to do is tell them the way how they should travel on the second time they go through Canaan. Kederach Sheher Lahan B'Rishayna, the same way that he did it on the first time. Right? That meaning the way Rashi says when they left Mitzrayim, they had what do you call it? The Anan. What do you call it?
Anania covered.
Anania covered. Thank you. Totally. Yes, Anania covered to direct them. So here they're not going to have it. So therefore, they sort of gave them a map to show them how to do it. Go the word derech means go in the derech without sadis and kramim. Meaning, don't go in the fields and the vineyards. Hayoshev that you're dwelling. Be yishuv l'chuv v'loy b'dvaros. You should be going. You shouldn't be traveling through the midbar. You should be going in more established areas. Ba'rava l'chuv v'loy b'harim v'gvois. Go on the plains and don't go in the mountains. So basically, it was sort of the pasuk is sort of giving them a roadmap to which to travel in the easy way and not to take it. Take it so far, right? Should we do a little more? Yeah, let's do it till the bottom of the moment. So Tana Rabbanan, Ketzad of now we go back to the story. Tana Rabbanan, Ketzad of Yisrael say Yarden. How did the Klal Yisrael cross over the Yarden? So B'chol Yom Aaron Neisea Acha Shnei Degalim. Normally the Aaron went behind the two camps. That's the way Rashi teaches it. Meaning a degel can mean a flag, or it means a. However, the Aaron traveled behind Klal Yisrael. But when it went through the Yarden, when it crossed over the Yarden, which we'll see tomorrow's daf as Hashem about exactly how it dried up. But when they went through here, the Aaron went first. Shenemar hine Aaron abris adon kol haaretz over lefnechem. B'chol yom v'yom Levim noisen as the Aaron. Every day the Levim would carry the Aaron. V'yom nasu kahanim. And today the kahanim did. So two things so far that went different. One is that the Aaron went first, and two is the kahanim carried as opposed to the Levim. Shenemar v'ya kenoyach kapes raglei kahanim noise Aaron Hashem. When the feet of the kahanim put down the Aaron near the water of the Yarden. Yeah, fine. Tani Rabbi Yossi, there are 3 times that the Kahanim carried the Aaron. Kishavru es Yarden, when they passed over the Yarden, Kishisibu es Yericho, when they went around Yericho 7 times, when they made Yericho fall, that's also in Yeshua. When they put it back in its place after Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash, when they put it back, the Kahanim are the ones that brought it back. Okay, tomorrow as Hashem we continue with this whole story. All right, the Olam should have themselves a fine night. Okay, I'm going to run.
Doesn't seem the guy did much lifting. Live it up.
Well, yeah. All right. Have yourselves a fine. Rabban, you got to look at the highlights. You made it big time. Parents sent you a picture.
So,
you got to go on the video and watch the replay.
Icky sent me also. Icky sent me also.
Yossi Steinberg sent it from Eretz Yisrael. It was 2:00 in the morning over there.
Oh yeah.
I walked into my house from yeshiva. My kid said, "Hey, home run for the Mets! Hey, there's Aaron Horowitz."
Aaron, I wanted to post it. Tiago said I had to ask you your shut first.
Send it to me. I want to see it. Send it to me.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I'll post it. If you give permission, I'll post it.
It's fine. It's fine.
Looks like you had a good time. That's the bottom line.
It was great. I sat there the second game. The first game I sat someplace else. Yeah. So Yaakov, this fellow in the Brave shirt, he got 3 balls by the game.
Oh, yeah?
The Brave bullpen coach threw him a ball because he was wearing a Brave shirt. Then he caught the home run ball. There was an amazing catch in the home run ball, but totally barehanded. No, he mamish caught it straight on. And then Marte, he spoke to Marte in Spanish, and Marte gave him a ball also. So you got 3, the fellow.
So he was doing well. I hear. Yeah. I forgot to remind Olam, Kiddush Levana. I think the Levana is still out there. In case anybody didn't do it, it might be clouded. I don't know. Maybe somebody should post it. All right, fine.
Whatever it means that we need Malachim to take tefillas up. You see from Amud Aleph that the Eivishter needs Malachim to bring the baskel to us too.
Right, that's
it
true.
goes both ways.
I hear that. Good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Halavaya went direct though.
Whatever it means.
Once that's really Batashnik.
All right.
About the bus call. What's the shot in the bus call?
Yeah.
He said as a bus call, everybody hears a bus call. It's like it's just like you do it everywhere. Everybody heard the bus call. Bus call comes out. There was no Shiloh. There's nobody to say I didn't hear it. I was here. I was there. Everybody hears the bus call. Bus call
Depends on the bus code. Some places that they come out. Not
I gotta go. Okay, good to know. Yeah.
The point of the bus code is it's an echo of the voice of Hashem.
Okay.
I think that's why they tested it in this Gemara. It's just an echo. They want to know that they got it right. They really heard it. So this is one they could test. They tested it. Now they heard, okay, we're talking hearing the voice of Hashem, the Dvar Hashem. Shows on every other Basco.
It's a big, scary thing to hear Basco, no?
Oh, we should all hear Bascos. There's all kinds of echoes. We should hear the right ones.
Yeah. All right,
Tage Nacht.
I don't know about the baseball, but I met Mayor Hershkowitz many times up here. It's his daughter was married to Moshe Gorelik, and she was Nifter, but Mayor Hershkowitz and his Rebbetzin would come up, and every Hanukkah they would come up, and maybe a few other times, like in the summertime, and so I was excited to be by them. Then it was
very nice.
It was very interesting. I would speak at Charles Shooter. I would speak. The Rebbetzin would say, "Where's that younger man? I want him to speak." But it was a Pella, it was a Pella. The person could be such a big gadol and very just so totally humble.
Yeah.
Okay, good night.
Gute Nacht.